The cardboard box landed on the wet sidewalk with a thud, spilling Imani Brooks' belongings across the concrete. She stared at the scattered pieces of her life. A framed photo of her late father, 3 nursing textbooks she'd never finished reading, and a stuffed bear from childhood. Behind her, the landlord's maintenance worker carried out another box, this one containing her mother's medications. "Please," Imani said, her voice steady despite the fear clawing at her chest. "Just give us 1 more week. I have a job interview tomorrow." The maintenance worker, an older man with kind eyes, looked away. "I'm sorry, miss." Mr. Peterson gave clear orders. 3 months behind is 3 months too many. Imani turned to her mother, who sat on the building's front steps wrapped in a thin blue jacket. Patricia Brooks looked smaller than usual, her brown skin ashen, her breathing labored. The pneumonia had weakened her over the past month, and without insurance, they'd depleted their savings on basic medication that barely helped. "Mama, we need to get you somewhere warm," Imani said, forcing brightness into her tone. Patricia managed a weak smile. "Baby, I'm fine. You worry about yourself." But Imani saw the tremor in her mother's hands, the way she struggled with each breath. They needed help. Real help. The kind that required money they didn't have. A black sedan pulled up to the curb. A woman in a crisp gray suit stepped out, her heels clicking against the pavement. She looked at Imani with an expression that seemed like pity mixed with calculation. "Imani Brooks?" the woman asked. "Yes. My name is Rachel Torres. I'm from Crawford Industries. You applied for an administrative position last month." Imani's heart stuttered. She'd applied to hundreds of jobs in desperation, barely remembering each one. "I did, but I never heard back." Rachel glanced at Patricia, then at the boxes scattered on the sidewalk. "We have an urgent opening. The position is personal assistant to our CEO, Julian Crawford. It pays $150,000 annually, with full medical benefits that start immediately. Housing allowance included." The numbers didn't make sense. Imani had applied for a basic office job paying maybe $40,000. "Why me? I don't have experience at that level." "Mr. Crawford has very specific requirements," Rachel said carefully. 23 assistants have quit or been fired in the past 18 months. He's difficult to work with, but the compensation reflects that difficulty. You need this job. He needs someone who won't quit. Are you interested?" Imani looked at her mother, who was now coughing into her hand. She looked at their belongings on the wet sidewalk. She looked at the eviction notice still clutched in her own hand. "When do I start?" Imani asked. Rachel's expression softened with something like relief or maybe concern. "Tomorrow morning. 8 o'clock sharp. Mr. Crawford doesn't tolerate lateness." She handed Imani a business card with an address. "Be prepared. He will test you. Most people break within the first week." "I won't break," Imani said. Rachel studied her for a long moment. "We'll see. The company will arrange temporary housing for you and your mother tonight. A car will pick you up at 7:30 tomorrow." She returned to her sedan and drove away. Imani sat down next to her mother on the steps. Patricia took her daughter's hand. "You don't have to do this, baby." "Yes, I do," Imani said softly. "The medical benefits start immediately. We can get you real treatment. We can get back on our feet." "But 23 people quit?" Imani squeezed her mother's hand. "I'm not them. I've survived worse than a difficult boss. We've survived worse together." Patricia coughed again, and Imani felt the familiar weight of responsibility settle over her shoulders. This job, this impossible boss, this too-good-to-be-true opportunity, it was their lifeline. She would grab it with both hands and hold on no matter how hard Julian Crawford tried to shake her loose. That night, in the small hotel room Crawford Industries had paid for, Imani researched her new employer. Julian Crawford, 34 years old, self-made billionaire, CEO of a tech company worth billions. The articles described him as brilliant, demanding, and cold. Photos showed a tall man with sharp features and ice-blue eyes that seemed to look through people rather than at them. "He looks mean," Patricia said from her bed, where she was finally resting comfortably after taking the medication Rachel had arranged to be delivered. "He probably is," Imani agreed. "But mean people still need assistance. And we need his money." She stayed awake most of the night, preparing herself mentally. Whatever Julian Crawford threw at her, she would handle it. She'd grown up in South Chicago, worked 3 jobs to help her mother after her father died, and held her mother's hand through 2 cancer scares. A difficult billionaire was just another challenge. The next morning, Imani dressed in her best outfit, a green blouse and black slacks that she'd rescued from the eviction pile. The car arrived exactly at 7:30. During the ride to Crawford Industries' downtown headquarters, Imani practiced breathing exercises to calm her nerves. The building was glass and steel, modern and imposing. Inside, the lobby gleamed with marble floors and contemporary art. Employees moved with purpose, their expressions serious. No one smiled. Rachel met her at the elevator. "Ready?" "Yes," Imani said even though her stomach was churning. They rode to the top floor in silence. The elevator doors opened to reveal a massive office space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. In the center stood a large desk made of dark wood. Behind it sat Julian Crawford. He didn't look up as they approached. He was reading something on his tablet, his jaw tight with concentration or maybe irritation. He wore a blue shirt with the sleeves rolled up, revealing forearms corded with lean muscle. His dark hair was slightly messy as if he'd been running his hands through it. "Mr. Crawford," Rachel said. "This is Imani Brooks, your new assistant." Julian finally looked up. His eyes were even more intense in person, a pale blue that seemed to miss nothing. They swept over Imani in a quick, assessing glance that made her spine straighten. "How long do you think you'll last?" he asked. His voice was deep, controlled, and completely devoid of warmth. Imani met his gaze directly. "As long as it takes." Something flickered in his expression, too quick to identify. "We'll see." "Rachel, you can go." He returned his attention to his tablet, dismissing them both. But Imani didn't move. "What would you like me to do first?" Julian's eyes snapped back to her, and this time there was a hint of surprise. "Most people are intimidated into silence for at least the first hour." "I'm not most people," Imani said simply. A ghost of something that might have been amusement crossed his face before vanishing. "No," he said slowly. "I don't think you are. Have you ever wondered what it takes to survive working for someone everyone else runs from? Could you stand your ground when everything inside tells you to quit? If this story speaks to you, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below telling me, would you take this job or would you walk away? Your answer might surprise you." Julian Crawford's office was immaculate. Every surface gleamed. Every document had its place. The air smelled faintly of coffee and expensive cologne. Imani stood in front of his desk, waiting for instructions while he continued reading his tablet. After several long minutes he finally spoke. "Your desk is there." He gestured to a smaller desk positioned near the windows. "You'll manage my schedule, screen all calls and emails, prepare briefing documents for meetings, and handle any task I assign. Questions? What's the most important thing I need to know about how you work?" Imani asked. Julian looked at her as if she'd asked something unusual. "I expect perfection. I expect efficiency. I expect you to anticipate my needs before I voice them. Most assistants fail at all three." "Then most assistants weren't properly trained," Imani said. "Show me what perfection looks like to you and I'll deliver it." His eyebrow rose slightly. "Confident. Realistic," Imani corrected. "I learn fast, but I can't read your mind." Clear communication makes both our jobs easier. For the first time, Julian's expression shifted into something almost like interest. "Fine. Sit down. We'll start with today's schedule." The next 4 hours were brutal. Julian fired information at her like bullets. Meeting times, client names, project details, dietary restrictions for lunch orders, preferred coffee temperature, filing systems, and about 100 other details. He never repeated himself. He never slowed down. He watched her like a hawk, waiting for her to stumble. Imani took notes on the computer he'd assigned her, organizing information into categories that made sense. She asked clarifying questions when needed but didn't waste his time with unnecessary chatter. By noon she had a system in place. "Lunch," Julian said abruptly. "Mediterranean place 2 blocks east. I want the chicken souvlaki plate, no onions, extra lemon, side of hummus." "They know my order. Be back in 20 minutes. Imani grabbed her phone and headed for the elevator. The moment she stepped outside the office, she felt like she could breathe again. Other employees in the hallways looked at her with a mixture of curiosity and pity. A young woman with red hair stopped her near the elevator. "You're the new assistant?" "Yes." "Imani Brooks." "Tessa Hammond, Marketing Department. How's it going up there?" "It's intense," Imani admitted. Tessa laughed, but it sounded sad. "That's putting it mildly. The last assistant cried in the bathroom 3 times her first day. She quit before lunch on day 2. The one before her lasted a week. Julian Crawford is brilliant, but he's brutal." "He just has high standards," Imani said carefully. "High standards?" Tessa shook her head. "Honey, he has impossible standards. He expects people to be as perfect as he is, and nobody can match that. Don't take it personally when he tears into you. He does it to everyone. Imani collected the lunch order and returned in exactly 19 minutes. She placed the bag on Julian's desk. He was on a phone call, speaking rapid-fire Spanish to someone about supply chain issues. He didn't acknowledge her. She returned to her own desk and pulled up the schedule for the afternoon. 3 meetings, 2 conference calls, and a stack of contracts that needed review. She began preparing briefing documents based on the files Julian had given her access to. 2 hours later, Julian ended his final call and turned to her. The briefing for the Anderson meeting. Imani pulled up the document on her screen. I've summarized the key points from the contract negotiations, highlighted the 3 areas where they're asking for concessions, and researched their company's financial position for the past quarter. The document is in your shared folder. Julian opened it on his tablet. He read in silence for several minutes. Imani waited, her heart beating faster. This was the test. He would either appreciate thorough work or find something to criticize. This is adequate, he said finally. Coming from him, Imani realized, adequate was probably high praise. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just keep doing it. He stood, grabbing his suit jacket from the back of his chair. Anderson meeting is in conference room A. Bring your tablet and take notes. The meeting was Imani's first real glimpse of Julian Crawford in action. He was sharp, focused, and absolutely relentless in negotiation. He caught details others missed. He turned their arguments back on them with surgical precision. He never raised his voice, but his quiet intensity filled the room. The Anderson representatives looked exhausted by the end. They'd come in confident and left having agreed to terms that heavily favored Crawford Industries. Back in the office, Julian loosened his tie. Your notes. Imani pulled up the document she'd been typing during the meeting. Complete meeting minutes with action items flagged and assigned. He read through them. You missed one thing. Anderson's CFO mentioned their Q4 concerns about manufacturing costs. That's leverage for the next negotiation. I caught that, Imani said, scrolling down. It's in the supplemental observations section at the bottom. Julian looked at her, really looked at her for the first time since morning. You organized the notes into separate sections. Standard minutes, action items, and strategic observations. I thought it would be more useful that way. Something shifted in his expression. Not quite approval, but a decrease in skepticism. Continue with that format for all meetings. The rest of the day followed the same pattern. Julian demanded. Imani delivered. He criticized. She improved. By 6 o'clock, when most of the office had emptied out, Imani was exhausted but still functioning. You can leave at 6, Julian said, still working at his desk. What time do you leave? Imani asked. That's not relevant to your job. If I'm going to anticipate your needs, I should know your schedule, Imani said. Including when you actually stop working. Julian's jaw tightened. I leave when the work is done. Then I'll stay until you do. At least for the first week so I can learn your patterns. That's not necessary. It's efficient, Imani countered, using his own word back at him. You can show me more of what you need and I'll be better prepared tomorrow. For a long moment, they stared at each other. Imani refused to back down. Finally, Julian nodded once sharply. Fine. But don't expect extra pay for extra hours. The salary compensates for the demands. I understand. They worked in silence for another 2 hours. Around 8, Imani's phone buzzed. Her mother. She answered quietly. Hi, Mama. Baby, are you okay? It's late. I'm fine. Just finishing up. How are you feeling? Better. The new medication is helping. When will you be home? Soon. Have you eaten? Yes, the hotel sent up dinner. It's nice, Imani. Real nice. I'm not used to this. Get used to it, Imani said gently. Things are going to be better now. I promise. After she hung up, she found Julian watching her. Your mother is sick? Imani hesitated. She didn't want to seem like she was asking for sympathy or special treatment. She had pneumonia. She's recovering. The medical benefits start immediately, Julian said. Rachel should have told you. Make sure your mother sees a proper doctor. A good one. Thank you, Imani said, meaning it deeply. Julian looked uncomfortable with her gratitude. It's part of your compensation package. Nothing more. He shut down his computer. You did adequate work today. Tomorrow will be harder. I can handle it. We'll see, he said, echoing his words from that morning. But this time there was less doubt in his voice. Imani gathered her things and headed home to the hotel. She was exhausted, mentally drained, and her feet hurt from the heels she'd worn all day. But she'd survived day one. She'd met Julian Crawford's impossible standards and lived to tell the tale. 23 assistants had failed before her. Imani Brooks was determined not to be the 24th. By the end of week one, Imani understood why so many assistants had quit. Julian Crawford wasn't just demanding. He was relentless. He expected her to remember every detail from every conversation, to predict what he needed before he asked, to work at his pace without faltering. On Monday of week 2, Imani arrived at 7:45 to find Julian already at his desk, looking irritated. "You're late." "I'm 15 minutes early," Imani said calmly. "I arrive at 8. I'm here at 7:30. You should be too." "Then my start time should be 7:30, not 8, Imani said, setting down her bag. "I'm happy to adjust my schedule. But I need clear expectations." Julian's jaw worked like he was chewing on her words. "Fine. 7:30 from now on. With compensation adjustment for the extra hours?" His eyes narrowed. "You're negotiating with me?" "I'm clarifying terms," Imani said. "You value clear communication. So do I." For a tense moment, they stared at each other. Then Julian's lips twitched in what might have been the ghost of a smile. "Half-hour earlier start time, same end time. You'll leave at 5:30 instead of 6. Fair?" "Fair," Imani agreed. The day proceeded at its usual breakneck pace. Julian had back-to-back meetings about a potential merger. Imani prepared briefing documents, took detailed notes, and managed the constant stream of emails and calls. Around 3 o'clock her phone rang. The hospital. "I need to take this," she said to Julian, who was in the middle of reviewing a contract. He waved her off without looking up. Imani stepped into the hallway. "Hello. Ms. Brooks, this is Dr. Patel from Mercy General. Your mother was brought in an hour ago. Her pneumonia has worsened significantly. We need to discuss treatment options." Imani's world tilted. "Is she okay?" "She's stable but struggling to breathe. We want to admit her for intensive treatment, but her current insurance doesn't cover the level of care she needs. The out-of-pocket costs would be substantial." "How substantial?" "Potentially $50,000 to $70,000 for a week of treatment, possibly more if complications arise." Imani leaned against the wall, her mind racing. Her benefits had started, but she hadn't had time to sort through the paperwork. "I have insurance through my employer. Can I add her?" "That typically takes weeks to process. Your mother needs treatment now." "I understand. Admit her. I'll figure out the payment." After hanging up, Imani stood in the hallway trying to compose herself. $50,000. She'd been at this job for a week. She had no savings. No way to get that kind of money. She returned to Julian's office. He was typing an email, his focus absolute. Imani sat at her desk and tried to concentrate on work, but her mind kept drifting to her mother struggling to breathe in a hospital bed. "You're distracted," Julian said after 15 minutes. "What's wrong?" "Nothing. I'm fine." "You're not fine. Your error rate has increased. You've made 3 typos in the last document. You never make typos." He turned to face her fully. "What happened?" Imani debated lying, but what was the point? "My mother was admitted to the hospital. Her pneumonia got worse. They want to keep her for intensive treatment." "Then go," Julian said. "Go to the hospital." "I can't. You have 2 more meetings today and the Shanghai call at 7. I've had assistants before you. I can manage a few meetings alone." His tone was sharp, but his expression had softened slightly. "Go." "Thank you," Imani said, grabbing her bag. She paused at the door. "I'll be back tomorrow at 7:30. Take tomorrow off if you need it." "I don't need it. I'll be here." At the hospital, Imani found her mother in a bed surrounded by beeping machines, an oxygen mask covering her face. Patricia's eyes opened when Imani took her hand. "Baby," her voice was muffled by the mask. "You shouldn't be here. You should be at work." "Mama, stop. Work can wait." They spent the evening together, Patricia drifting in and out of sleep while Imani sat in an uncomfortable chair and worried about money. The doctor stopped by around 8 to explain the treatment plan. Advanced antibiotics, respiratory therapy, possibly a ventilator if things got worse. About the costs, Dr. Patel said gently. "The billing department needs a payment plan or insurance verification by tomorrow." "I'll handle it," Imani said with more confidence than she felt. The next morning Imani arrived at the office at 7:30, exhausted but determined. Julian was already there as always. He looked up when she entered. "How's your mother?" "Stable. They're treating her aggressively." He nodded once. "Good." Then he pushed a folder across his desk toward her. "I had HR pull your benefits information. Your insurance covers dependent care, but there's a process to add your mother. It takes 3 weeks normally." Imani's heart sank. 3 weeks. She needs treatment now. "Which is why I've arranged for the company to advance the costs," Julian said, his tone businesslike. "Crawford Industries will pay the hospital directly. The amount will be deducted from your salary over time, interest-free." Imani stared at him. "That's $50,000. Maybe more. So it'll take you a while to pay back. Consider it an employee loan." He returned his attention to his computer. "The paperwork is in that folder. Sign it and return it to HR today." "Mr. Crawford," Imani said softly. "Thank you. I don't know what to say." "Don't say anything. Just do your job." But his voice had lost its usual edge. "Your mother needs care. You need to focus on work. This solves both problems." Imani opened the folder with shaking hands. The loan agreement was straightforward. No interest. Reasonable monthly payments. A note at the bottom said the company would also expedite her mother's addition to Imani's insurance plan. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. Julian finally looked at her again. His ice blue eyes held something she hadn't seen before. Not quite warmth but not coldness either. Something human. "Because you're the first assistant in 18 months who hasn't quit or needed to be fired. Because you do good work. Because your mother is sick, and you shouldn't have to choose between taking care of her and keeping your job." Imani felt tears prickling her eyes, but she blinked them back. "I'll sign this right now." "Good. Now let's get to work. We have a lot to do today." The rest of the week passed in a blur of work and hospital visits. Patricia's treatment was aggressive but effective. By Friday she was breathing easier. The doctors were optimistic about her recovery. Julian never mentioned the loan again. He never asked about Patricia's progress. But Imani noticed small changes. He didn't schedule late meetings on days he knew she wanted to visit the hospital. He made sure she took lunch breaks. When she thanked him, he brushed it off as mere efficiency. But Imani was beginning to see past the cold exterior. Julian Crawford wasn't cruel. He was guarded. There was a difference. On Friday evening, as Imani prepared to leave, Julian spoke without looking up from his work. "Your mother is improving?" "Yes, much better. They might discharge her next week." "Good," he said simply. "Mr. Crawford," Imani said. "I know you don't want gratitude, but you saved my mother's life. That matters to me." His jaw tightened. For a moment she thought he wouldn't respond. Then he said quietly, "People act like money is just numbers on a screen. But it can buy time, health, chances. I have more than I could ever need. Using it to help someone who works hard doesn't make me a saint. It makes me a decent employer." "It makes you a good person," Imani said. Julian's eyes met hers and something passed between them. A moment of understanding. A crack in his armor. Then he looked away. "Go home, Imani. Rest this weekend. Monday will be busy." "Thank you," she said again. This time he didn't tell her not to thank him. He just nodded. As Imani left the office that night, she realized something had shifted. She'd come to this job desperate, willing to endure anything for the paycheck. But now she was beginning to see Julian Crawford not as an impossible boss to survive but as a complex person worth understanding. And that realization, she suspected, was going to make things much more complicated. 3 weeks into the job, Imani had established a rhythm. She arrived at 7:30 sharp, her desk organized, her mind ready for whatever Julian would throw at her that day. She'd learned his preferences, his patterns, his moods. She could tell by the set of his shoulders whether he'd slept well or worked through the night. She knew when to speak and when silence served better. Patricia had been discharged from the hospital and was staying in the apartment Crawford Industries had arranged. The place had 2 bedrooms, a kitchen that actually worked, and windows that let in real sunlight. After years of struggling, this felt like a palace. "Baby, this is too much," Patricia had said when she first saw it. "We can't afford this." "It's part of my compensation package," Imani explained, which was technically true. "The housing allowance covered most of the rent. And you're getting better. That's all that matters." On Monday of week 4, Imani arrived to find Julian in an unusually tense mood. His shoulders were rigid, his jaw tight. He barely acknowledged her greeting. "Conference call with Tokyo at 8, he said curtly. "Then Berlin at 10. Board meeting at 1. I need the quarterly reports revised by noon." "The reports are done," Imani said. They're in your folder. I'll set up for the Tokyo call. The morning was intense. Julian was sharp during negotiations, but Imani noticed a brittleness to his control, like he was holding himself together by force of will. After the Berlin call, he stood by the windows staring out at the city. Should I order lunch? Imani asked. Not hungry. You should eat something. He turned to face her, irritation flashing in his eyes. I said I'm not hungry. Imani didn't flinch. And I heard you. But you've had 3 cups of coffee and no food since you got here at 6 this morning. You have a board meeting in 2 hours. You need fuel. Since when do you manage my eating habits? Since you hired me to anticipate your needs, Imani said calmly. Right now, you need food more than you need another argument about food. For a moment, Julian looked like he might snap at her again. Then his shoulders sagged slightly. Fine. Order something. What sounds good? Surprise me. Imani ordered from the Mediterranean place he liked, adding a Greek salad and some fruit. When the food arrived, she set it on his desk without comment. Julian ate mechanically, still focused on his tablet. Halfway through the meal, he spoke. It's my father's birthday today. He would have been 68. Imani looked up from her own desk. Julian had never volunteered personal information before. Would have been. He died 6 years ago. Heart attack. He was 58, healthy, no warning. Just gone. Julian set down his fork. He built this company from nothing. Gave everything to it. And it killed him. I'm sorry, Imani said softly. Everyone's sorry. It doesn't change anything. The bitterness in his voice was raw. He missed my graduation because of a meeting. Missed my mother's last year because he was traveling for business. Missed everything important because work always came first. And then he died at his desk, probably in the middle of reading some pointless email. Imani understood suddenly why Julian pushed so hard, why he demanded perfection, why he kept people at a distance. He was trying to prove something. Or maybe trying to avoid becoming something. Is that why you're so hard on your assistants? She asked gently. Because you're trying not to be like him? Julian's head snapped up, his eyes sharp. I'm nothing like him. You're exactly like him, Imani said. You work 18-hour days. You skip meals. You don't have relationships because work comes first. You're brilliant and driven and completely alone. Just like he was. You don't know what you're talking about. Maybe not, Imani admitted. But I know what I see. You're drowning in work and you won't let anyone help you because you think asking for help is weakness. This conversation is over, Julian said coldly. Get back to work. Imani returned to her desk, her heart pounding. She'd crossed a line, but someone needed to say it. Someone needed to point out that Julian was destroying himself the same way his father had. They didn't speak for the rest of the afternoon. The board meeting went smoothly. Julian was charming and confident in front of the executives, his personal struggles invisible. But Imani saw the tension in his shoulders, the tightness around his eyes. At 6 o'clock, most of the office had cleared out. Julian was still working as always. Imani finished organizing files for tomorrow and stood to leave. Imani, Julian said, his voice quiet. She turned. Yes. You were right. Earlier. What you said about my father. He wasn't looking at her, his eyes fixed on his computer screen. I swore I'd never become him. But somewhere along the way I did. You still have time to change, Imani said. Do I? He finally looked at her, and the vulnerability in his expression caught her off guard. I built this company into what it is by working harder than everyone else. By sacrificing everything else. How do I change that without losing everything I've built? You hire good people and trust them to help carry the weight, Imani said. You delegate. You accept that perfection isn't sustainable. You let people in. I don't know how to do that. Then learn, Imani said simply. The same way you learned everything else. With patience and practice. Julian was silent for a long moment. Then he shut down his computer. I'm going home. For once, I'm going home before 8 o'clock. Good, Imani said. Don't look so smug. I'm not smug. I'm glad. As they rode down in the elevator together, Julian spoke again. Your mother is fully recovered now? Yes. The doctor said she's doing great. The treatment worked. I'm glad, he said and sounded like he meant it. She's lucky to have you. I'm lucky to have her, Imani replied. They walked out of the building together into the cool evening air. Julian's driver was waiting, but he hesitated before getting in. Imani, I'm not good at this. At being less than hard. At showing appreciation. But you've done exceptional work these past few weeks. Better than any assistant I've had. Thank you, Imani said, surprised by the compliment. I'm also sorry. For being harsh sometimes. For pushing too hard. He looked uncomfortable, like the words didn't come naturally. You push back when I'm being unreasonable. Most people don't. I need that. We all need someone to tell us when we're being ridiculous, Imani said with a small smile. Julian almost smiled back. Almost. Get home safe. See you tomorrow. As his car pulled away, Imani stood on the sidewalk feeling like something fundamental had shifted between them. The impossible boss was becoming a real person. And she was becoming more than just an assistant. The next day, Imani arrived to find an envelope on her desk. Inside was a revised contract. Her salary had been increased by $20,000. A note in Julian's precise handwriting said simply, "You've earned it." Imani found him in his office. "Mr. Crawford, this is too much. It's market rate for someone with your skills and performance," he said without looking up. "Don't argue. Just accept it. But I've only been here a month. And you've done more in that month than some assistants do in a year." He finally looked at her. "You saved me from firing another person and starting over. You make my work life manageable. That has value." Imani thought about the principle she'd been told. When the billionaire offers help, accept with gratitude. "Thank you. This will make a huge difference for my mother and me." "Good. Now we have work to do. There's a potential acquisition I need you to research." They fell back into their routine, but something had changed. Julian was still demanding, still intense, but there were cracks in his armor. He asked about Patricia's health. He made sure Imani took breaks. He occasionally shared small details about his life. By the end of week 4, Imani realized she'd broken the pattern. She'd lasted longer than any other assistant. But more importantly, she'd started to break through Julian's defenses. And maybe, just maybe, he was breaking through hers too. Week 6 brought an unexpected challenge. Crawford Industries was hosting its annual charity gala, a black tie event that Julian apparently dreaded. Imani learned this when she found him staring at the invitation list with visible distaste. "You look like you're planning a funeral, not a party," she observed. "These events are tedious. 3 hours of small talk with people who only care about networking and being seen." He tossed the list aside. "But it's expected. The company's image and all that." "Who are you bringing as your date?" Imani asked, then immediately regretted the personal question. Julian raised an eyebrow. "I don't do dates. I go alone, make an appearance, and leave early. That seems lonely." "It's efficient." He turned back to his computer. "I need you there to manage logistics. The event coordinator is competent, but I trust you to handle issues that arise." "Me? At a fancy gala?" Imani laughed. "I don't have anything to wear to something like that. The company has an account with a formal wear boutique. Go during lunch tomorrow. Get whatever you need. Bill it to the company." "Mr. Crawford, I can't let you buy me a dress. You're working the event. It's a work expense, not a gift. Stop arguing." His tone was firm but not unkind. "And get something in red or blue. You look good in bright colors." Imani felt her cheeks warm. "You've noticed what colors I wear?" Julian's jaw tightened slightly. "I'm observant. It's not personal." But the way he said it made Imani wonder if maybe it was a little personal. She pushed the thought away. Julian was her boss. A difficult, brilliant, generous boss who was starting to feel like more than that, but still her boss. The next day, Imani visited the boutique Julian had mentioned. The sales associate, an elegant woman named Claire, already had instructions. Mr. Crawford called ahead. He said to make sure you have everything you need. No budget limit. "That's not necessary," Imani protested. He was very clear. "He wants you to be comfortable and confident." Claire smiled. "Let's find you something beautiful." 2 hours later, Imani left with a stunning dress in deep maroon, shoes that actually fit well, and accessories she'd never have bought herself. The dress was elegant without being revealing, fitted but not tight, and made her feel like someone who belonged at a fancy gala. When she returned to the office, Julian was in a meeting. She hung the garment bag in the small closet near her desk and got back to work. That evening, as they were both preparing to leave, Julian spoke. "You got something?" "Yes. Thank you for arranging that." "What color?" "Maroon. It's close to red." Julian nodded, looking pleased. "Good. The gala is Friday. We'll leave from the office at 6. Friday arrived faster than Imani expected. She changed in the office bathroom, taking extra care with her makeup and hair. When she emerged, several co-workers did double takes. Tessa from marketing actually gasped. "Imani, you look absolutely stunning," Tessa said. Julian Crawford better appreciate you tonight. It's just work, Imani said, but her stomach was fluttering. She returned to the office to find Julian in a black tuxedo, looking like he'd stepped out of a magazine. He glanced up when she entered, and something flickered in his expression. Not quite surprise, but something close. You look professional, he said, which was probably his way of saying she looked nice. You look uncomfortable, Imani replied, noting his tense shoulders. I hate these things, he admitted. But let's get it over with. The gala was held at a luxury hotel downtown. The ballroom glittered with chandeliers, white flowers, and well-dressed attendees. Imani stayed close to Julian, watching him transform into the charming CEO everyone expected. He smiled, shook hands, made conversation. But Imani saw the strain in his eyes. Around 8:30, a tall blonde woman approached. She wore a black dress and a predatory smile. Julian, darling. It's been too long. Monica, Julian said coolly. Didn't expect to see you here. I'm on the charity board this year. You remember me, don't you? We dated briefly 2 years ago. Monica's eyes slid to Imani with thinly veiled disdain. And who is this? Imani Brooks, my assistant, Julian said. Assistant. Monica's smile sharpened. How nice that you brought staff to the gala. Imani felt the insult but kept her expression neutral. Julian's jaw tightened. Imani is here because she's essential to my work. Unlike some people, she actually contributes value. Monica's smile faltered. Still as charming as ever, I see. Still as transparent, Julian replied. Excuse us. We have actual business to attend to. He guided Imani away with a hand on her lower back, the touch surprisingly gentle. Sorry about that. Monica is the kind of person who makes these events unbearable. She seems lovely, Imani said dryly. Julian almost smiled. That's one word for it. She dated me for 3 months, got upset that I prioritized work and left. Then she told everyone I was emotionally unavailable and impossible to love. Were you? Emotionally unavailable? Probably, Julian admitted. I didn't have time for her expectations. She wanted someone who would drop everything for her. I couldn't be that person. Can't or won't. Julian stopped walking and looked at her. What's the difference? Can't means it's impossible. Won't means it's a choice. You choose work over everything else. That's not the same as being incapable of caring. His eyes searched her face. You're doing it again. Seeing through me. Is that a problem? I'm not sure yet, he said quietly. The moment stretched between them, charged with something Imani couldn't quite name. Then someone called Julian's name and the spell broke. They spent the rest of the evening managing social obligations, but Imani was hyper-aware of Julian's presence beside her. Around 10, Julian turned to her. I've done my duty. Let's leave. They escaped to his car, both breathing sighs of relief. 3 hours of that is my limit, Julian said, loosening his bow tie. You handled it well. Everyone seemed impressed. They're impressed by the company's success. I'm just the face of it. He looked at her in the dim car interior. You were good tonight. You read people well. Anticipated issues before they became problems. That's my job. It's more than that. You're observant. Intuitive. You see things others miss. His voice was softer than usual. You see me when most people just see the CEO. Imani's heart was beating faster. Maybe that's because you let me see you. Maybe, Julian agreed. I don't usually let people close. It's safer that way. Safer from what? Disappointment. Loss. Getting attached to people who leave. He looked away. My father died suddenly. My mother withdrew after that. The few relationships I've tried have failed because I couldn't be what they needed. It's easier to just work. Easier isn't always better, Imani said gently. No, he agreed. But it's predictable. The car pulled up to Imani's building. She should get out, go inside, maintain professional boundaries. Instead, she said, Julian, you're not emotionally unavailable. You're careful. There's a difference. He looked at her with those intense blue eyes. How do you know? Because you paid for my mother's treatment without hesitation. Because you remember what colors I wear. Because right now you're sharing things you don't share with anyone else. That's not unavailable. That's cautious. And if I stayed cautious? If I kept walls up? That's your choice, Imani said. But I think you're starting to realize those walls are a prison, not protection. She got out of the car before he could respond. As she walked to her building, she heard him call her name. She turned. Imani. Thank you. For tonight. For understanding. Anytime, she said. That night, lying in bed, Imani acknowledged what she'd been avoiding. She was developing feelings for Julian Crawford. Real feelings that went beyond professional respect. And based on the way he'd looked at her tonight, the way his voice had softened, she suspected he might be feeling something too. But they both had walls to break down first. The Monday after the gala, something had shifted between them. Julian was still professional, still demanding, but there was a softness to his interactions with Imani. He asked how her weekend was. He remembered that she mentioned wanting to try a new restaurant and had lunch delivered from there. Small gestures that shouldn't have meant much but somehow meant everything. "You're different lately," Tessa observed during a chance encounter in the break room. "Lighter somehow. Is the job getting easier?" "Not easier," Imani said, "but better. Mr. Crawford is a good boss." Tessa nearly choked on her coffee. "Julian Crawford? Good boss? Did you hit your head?" Imani laughed. "He has high standards, but he's fair. And he cares more than he lets on." "Girl, you've either cracked the code or you're seeing things no one else sees." "Maybe both," Imani admitted. That afternoon, Julian asked her to accompany him to a site visit at one of the company's manufacturing facilities. During the 2-hour drive, they talked more freely than usual. Julian told her about starting the company at 26 with nothing but an idea and determination. "Everyone said I'd fail," he said, eyes on the road. "I was too young, too inexperienced, too ambitious. But I knew the technology would work. I just had to convince others." "How did you do it?" "I worked twice as hard as anyone else. I learned everything. I made myself indispensable." He paused. "And I shut out everything that didn't serve the goal. Friendships, relationships, hobbies. I became the company." "Do you regret it?" Julian was quiet for a long moment. "I regret not having balance. I built something successful, but I'm 34 and I have no one. No real friends. No family I'm close to. Just work." He glanced at her. "What about you? What did you give up to take care of your mother?" "Nursing school," Imani said. "I was halfway through when my dad died. Someone had to work to keep us afloat. My mom needed care. School seemed like a luxury." "Do you regret it?" "Sometimes. But I'd make the same choice again. Family matters more than degrees." She looked out the window at the passing landscape. "Though I do wonder who I'd be if I'd finished. If I'd become a nurse like I planned." "You'd be good at it. You're good at taking care of people." "Is that what I do with you?" Imani asked with a slight smile. "Take care of you?" "Among other things," Julian said. "You also challenge me. Keep me honest. Make me think about things I'd rather ignore." The manufacturing facility was impressive, all clean lines and efficient processes. Julian transformed into CEO mode, asking technical questions and noting areas for improvement. But Imani noticed how he also talked to workers by name, remembered details about their families, showed genuine interest in their feedback. This was a side of Julian few people saw. On the drive back as the sun started to set, Julian spoke more openly than ever before. "My mother lives in Florida now. We talk maybe once a month. It's cordial but distant. After Dad died, she blamed the company. Blamed me for being like him." "Are you like him?" "In the ways that matter. Driven. Focused. Unable to turn off the work mindset." He sighed. "She wanted me to sell the company after he died. Said I should live my life, not waste it like he did. We haven't been close since I refused. That must be hard." "It is what it is. I made my choice. She made hers." "It's not too late to rebuild that relationship," Imani said gently. "Maybe. But I wouldn't know how to start." He looked at her. "How did you stay close to your mother through everything?" "Honesty. Communication. Letting her see me struggle instead of pretending to have it all together." Imani smiled. "And accepting that love means showing up even when it's hard." "Showing up," Julian repeated. "That sounds simple but feels impossible. Most important things are like that." Back at the office as they prepared to leave for the day, Julian hesitated. "Imani, can I ask you something personal?" "Sure. Do you think people can really change? Not just behavior but fundamental patterns." Imani considered the question carefully. "I think people can evolve if they want it badly enough. But it takes work. And it takes letting other people help them." "What if they don't know how to let people help?" "They start small. One person, one moment of vulnerability at a time." She met his eyes. "You're already changing, Julian. You just don't see it yet." "How am I changing?" "You're here having this conversation instead of working until midnight. You asked personal questions. You shared things about your family. 6 weeks ago, you barely acknowledged I existed beyond my function. Now you see me as a person. Julian was quiet, absorbing her words. You make it sound easy. It's not easy, but it's worth it. That evening, Imani got home to find Patricia sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of tea, looking thoughtful. Baby, sit down. I want to talk to you. Imani sat, concerned. Is everything okay? Are you feeling bad? I'm fine. Better than fine, actually. Patricia smiled. But I want to talk about your boss. Mr. Crawford? You talk about him differently now. With more warmth. Like he's not just your employer. Imani felt her cheeks heat. He's been very good to us, Mama. He saved your life. I know. And I'm grateful. But baby, I see how your face changes when you mention him. I hear the softness in your voice. Patricia reached across the table to take her hand. Are you developing feelings for him? Imani wanted to deny it, but she'd never lied to her mother. Maybe. I don't know. He's complicated. Rich men usually are. It's not about money. He's brilliant and driven, yes. But he's also lonely and guarded. He's trying to figure out how to be more than just his work. I understand that struggle. Patricia squeezed her hand. Just be careful, sweetheart. He's your boss. That complicates things. I know. And nothing's happened. It's just we talk. We understand each other. For the first time in years, I feel like someone sees me for more than just a caretaker or an employee. And what about nursing school? Your dreams? I don't know, Imani admitted. Right now, I'm focused on doing this job well and helping you stay healthy. Patricia's expression was gentle but firm. Don't lose yourself taking care of everyone else. You matter too, baby. Your dreams matter. That conversation stayed with Imani through the rest of the week. She did matter. Her dreams did matter. But so did this growing connection with Julian, complicated as it was. On Friday, Julian surprised her by leaving work at 6. I'm taking your advice. About balance. Want to grab dinner? To discuss the merger project, he added quickly. Strictly business. Imani smiled, knowing it wasn't strictly business at all. Sure. Where? They went to a quiet Italian restaurant where the lighting was soft and the atmosphere relaxed. Over pasta and conversation they talked about everything except work. Julian asked about her dreams of nursing school. Imani asked about his hobbies before he became consumed by work. I used to play piano, Julian admitted. Nothing professional, just for enjoyment. I haven't touched one in years. Why not? No time. Or I told myself I didn't have time. Maybe I was afraid that if I allowed myself to enjoy things, I'd lose focus. That's a sad way to live. It is, he agreed. I'm starting to realize that. As they walked back to his car, Julian spoke quietly. Thank you, Imani. For tonight. For the past 6 weeks. For making me think about things differently. You're welcome. Thank you for trusting me enough to share. They stood by his car, the city lights glowing around them. Julian looked at her with an expression that made her breath catch. I should get you home. You should, Imani agreed. But neither of them moved. The moment stretched, charged with possibility and hesitation. Then Julian stepped back, breaking the spell. Monday. Back to work. Back to work, Imani echoed. As he drove her home, Imani realized they were standing on the edge of something that could either be wonderful or disastrous. Julian was changing. She was changing him. But change was messy and complicated, especially when mixed with growing feelings and power dynamics. They both had choices to make. And soon, those choices would determine whether this fragile connection became something real or shattered under the weight of expectation and fear. Week 8 brought chaos. A major client threatened to pull out of a multi-million-dollar contract due to concerns about product delays. The board was panicking. Julian was tense in a way Imani hadn't seen since her first week. We can't afford to lose Anderson Corp, he said, pacing his office. They're one of our biggest accounts. If they pull out, others will follow. Imani reviewed the contract files, her mind working through the problem. What if we approach this differently? Instead of defending our timeline, what if we offered them something better? Julian stopped pacing. What do you mean? They're concerned about delays. But what they really want is reliability and innovation. What if we propose early access to the new platform we're developing? Give them exclusive rights for 6 months in exchange for contract renewal. Julian's eyes lit up with interest. The new platform isn't ready for full launch. But it's functional. We could do a limited release with their team, position them as partners in the innovation rather than just clients waiting for delivery. Imani pulled up the development reports. According to these, we're 3 months ahead of original projections on the new system. We could easily accommodate one large client. Julian sat down at his desk, his mind clearly racing through the implications. That's actually brilliant. It transforms a crisis into an opportunity. They get cutting-edge access. We keep them locked in for another year. Everyone wins. Plus, it generates positive press, Imani added. Anderson Corp talks about being innovation partners with Crawford Industries. Other clients see that relationship. It builds rather than damages reputation. For the first time that morning, Julian smiled. A real, genuine smile that transformed his entire face. How did you think of this? I listened. You've taught me to see patterns, to think strategically. And I read all the development reports you have me organize. I pay attention. You do more than pay attention. You synthesize information and create solutions. He stood and crossed to her desk. This is why you're invaluable. Not just because you manage my schedule or take good notes. Because you think. The way he looked at her made Imani's pulse quicken. I'm just doing my job. You're doing far more than that. His voice was softer now. You're making me better at mine. They worked together on the proposal, Julian handling the technical aspects while Imani crafted the client-facing language. It was collaborative in a way Julian usually wasn't. He listened to her ideas, incorporated her feedback, treated her as an equal partner rather than just an assistant. By noon they had a solid proposal. Julian scheduled an emergency meeting with Anderson Corp's leadership for that afternoon. Come with me, he said to Imani. I want you there. To take notes? To present the partnership structure. You conceived it. You should present it. Imani felt a flutter of nerves. Julian, I'm not an executive. They're expecting to hear from you. They're expecting to hear good solutions. I don't care who delivers them. He looked at her seriously. You can do this. I know you can. The meeting was held in Crawford Industries' main conference room. Anderson Corp's team arrived looking skeptical. Their CEO, Thomas Anderson, was a stern man in his 50s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. Julian opened the meeting with confidence. Thank you for coming on short notice. We've heard your concerns about the timeline, and we've developed a proposal that we believe addresses those concerns while offering significant additional value. He nodded to Imani. Her heart pounded as she stood, pulling up the presentation on the large screen. But once she started talking, the nervousness faded. She knew this material. She believed in this solution. Mr. Anderson, we're proposing a partnership model, Imani began. Instead of a standard client relationship, we'd like to offer Anderson Corp exclusive early access to our new platform. This would position your company as an innovation leader in your industry while ensuring you have the most advanced tools available. She walked them through the details. Timeline, support structure, exclusivity period, training for their team. Thomas Anderson's expression shifted from skeptical to interested. Why offer this now? He asked. Seems like a significant concession. It's not a concession, Imani said firmly. It's recognition that Anderson Corp is more than just a client to us. You're a partner whose success matters to our success. We want to invest in that partnership. Thomas looked at Julian. She's good. Where did you find her? She found me, Julian said with a hint of pride in his voice. And she's the reason this company is evolving into something better. After an hour of discussion, Thomas stood and extended his hand to Julian. You have a deal. Draw up the partnership agreement. And Mr. Crawford, hold on to this one. Assistants like her are rare. I'm aware, Julian said, glancing at Imani. Believe me, I'm aware. Back in the office, Julian was energized in a way Imani had never seen. We did it. You did it? That was exceptional. We did it together, Imani corrected. No, you carried that meeting. Your confidence, your clarity, your ability to read the room and adjust your approach. He ran a hand through his hair. I've been doing this alone for so long. I forgot what it's like to have a real partner. Is that what we are? Partners? Julian met her eyes. Professionally, absolutely. You've proven you can think strategically, solve complex problems, and handle high-pressure situations. You're wasted as just an assistant. Imani's breath caught. What are you saying? I'm saying I want to promote you. Create a position that matches your actual contribution. Strategic operations manager, maybe? Or business development partner. Something that reflects your value. Julian, I've only been here 2 months. And you've already saved us a major client relationship and who knows what else. Time isn't the measure. Impact is. He was closer now, his intensity focused on her. Say yes. Let me recognize what you bring to this company. Can I think about it? Of course. But Imani, understands something. This isn't charity. This isn't me being nice. This is me recognizing talent and not wanting to lose it. That evening, Imani discussed the offer with Patricia. Her mother listened thoughtfully as Imani explained the situation. So your impossible boss wants to make you more than his assistant, Patricia said with a knowing smile. It's a professional decision, Mama? Is it? Or is it Julian realizing he needs you in his life in a bigger way and this is how he can justify it? Imani had wondered the same thing. Does it matter? It's a good opportunity. It matters if you're developing feelings that cloud your judgment. Baby, this man has been generous to us. He's helped you grow professionally. But you need to be clear about what you want. Is this about career advancement, or is it about being closer to him? Maybe both, Imani admitted. I care about him, Mama. More than I should for a boss. But I also genuinely love the work. I'm good at it. I want to do more. Then take the promotion, Patricia said. But be honest with yourself and with him about your feelings. Don't let things stay complicated and undefined. That never ends well. Imani knew her mother was right. She and Julian were dancing around something neither wanted to name. But at some point they'd have to face it directly. The next morning, Imani accepted the promotion. Julian's face lit up with genuine pleasure. Good. You won't regret this. I hope not, Imani said. I won't give you reason to. He hesitated, then added, this changes our working relationship somewhat. You'll have more autonomy. More direct client interaction. We'll function more as a team. But you're still my boss. Technically, yes. But I see you as more of an equal now. Your input matters. Your perspective matters. His eyes held hers. You matter. The weight of those words hung between them. Julian seemed to realize he'd revealed too much. He cleared his throat. Anyway, let's get to work. We have a partnership agreement to finalize. They worked together seamlessly, and Imani realized that somewhere along the way they'd stopped being just boss and assistant. They'd become something more, something undefined but undeniably real. And that terrified and thrilled her in equal measure. The promotion came with a new office, though Imani requested to keep a desk near Julian. I like being close to the action, she explained, which was true but not the whole truth. She liked being near him. Julian seemed pleased by her choice. Works for me. Makes collaboration easier. Over the next 2 weeks they fell into a new rhythm. Imani attended executive meetings, contributed to strategy sessions, and handled increasingly complex projects. The other executives accepted her quickly, impressed by her insights and work ethic. Tessa cornered Imani in the break room one afternoon. Okay, you have to tell me your secret. 2 months ago you were his assistant. Now you're in executive meetings. How? Hard work, Imani said simply. And Julian Crawford has nothing to do with it? Everyone's noticed how he looks at you. How does he look at me? Like you're the most interesting person in any room. Like he's trying to figure you out and enjoying the challenge. Tessa grinned. Girl, that man is falling for you. We're professional, Imani insisted, but her cheeks were warm. Sure. Keep telling yourself that. That evening, Imani got a text from an unknown number. It was a photo of a piano in what looked like an upscale music store. The message read, taking your advice about balance. Bought this today. Terrified I've forgotten how to play. JC. Imani smiled and texted back, proud of you. Bet it comes back quickly. His response was immediate, hope so. Would you like to hear me play sometime? Her heart skipped. Is Julian Crawford inviting me to his home? Professionally interested in your feedback on my rusty skills. Purely professional. Of course. Purely professional. Yes, I'd like that. Saturday? I'll send a car. Saturday arrived with a mixture of excitement and nerves. Imani dressed carefully in a blue dress that felt nice without being too formal. Julian's home was in an upscale neighborhood, a modern house with clean lines and huge windows. He answered the door in jeans and a casual green shirt, looking younger and more relaxed than she'd ever seen him. Come in. Fair warning, I haven't played in years. This might be painful. The house was beautiful but sparse, decorated with minimalist efficiency. The piano sat in a room with windows overlooking a small garden. It was a gorgeous instrument, sleek and modern. Julian sat at the bench, his hands hovering over the keys. I used to play Chopin. Let's see if I remember any of it. His first attempts were halting, fingers fumbling for the right notes. But gradually muscle memory returned. The music began to flow, tentative at first, then with growing confidence. Imani watched his face transform, the usual tension melting away, replaced by pure concentration and something like joy. When he finished, she applauded softly. That was beautiful. It was rough. It was honest, and it made you happy. I could see it in your face. Julian looked at her, his expression vulnerable. I'd forgotten what this felt like. Creating something just for the sake of creating it. Not for profit or productivity. Just for the experience. Maybe you needed to remember. He stood and gestured to the piano. Do you play? I took lessons as a kid. Nothing fancy. But she sat at the bench and played a simple piece, something her father had taught her. It wasn't complex, but it was filled with memory and emotion. Your father taught you? Julian asked when she finished. How did you know? The way you played. Like you were playing for someone. With love. Imani felt tears prick her eyes. He died when I was 19. Heart condition we couldn't afford to treat properly. He should have had surgery, but we didn't have insurance. By the time we saved enough, it was too late. Julian sat beside her on the bench. I'm sorry. That's not fair. Life rarely is, Imani said. But it taught me what matters. Family. Love. Being there for people. Making the most of the time we have. Is that why you took care of your mother even when it meant giving up your dreams? She's my mother. She'd have done the same for me. Has done the same for me my whole life. Imani looked at him. Family isn't a burden. It's a privilege. Julian was quiet for a long moment. I envy that. Your connection with your mother. Your certainty about what matters. You could have that. With your mother, with other people. You just have to let them in. What if I don't know how? Imani took his hand, the gesture feeling natural despite the racing of her heart. You start by being honest. By showing up. By letting people see you, not just the CEO but the person underneath. Julian looked down at their joined hands. You see me? The real me. And you're not running away. Why would I run? Because I'm difficult. Demanding. Bad at relationships. I work too much. I don't know how to be what people need. Maybe you don't need to be anything except yourself, Imani said softly. Maybe the right person doesn't need you to change. They just need you to let them in. Julian's eyes met hers, and the air between them crackled with tension. Imani, I need to tell you something. These past 2 months working with you, getting to know you, it's changed me. You've changed me. And I'm starting to realize that what I feel is more than professional respect. Imani's breath caught. Julian, we work together. I work for you. I know. Which is why I've been trying to ignore this. But I can't anymore. You're in my head all the time. I find excuses to talk to you. I look forward to seeing you every morning. I bought a piano because you suggested balance and I wanted you to be proud of me. This is more than work. I know, Imani whispered. I feel it too. But it's complicated. Everything worthwhile is complicated. He lifted her hand to his lips, pressing a gentle kiss to her knuckles. I'm not good at this. At feelings and vulnerability. But you make me want to try. You make me want to be better. You're better. You've grown so much since I started. Because of you. Because you pushed me. Because you didn't let me hide. His thumb traced circles on her hand. I'm terrified of this. Of caring about someone and losing them. But I'm more terrified of not taking the chance. Imani felt tears slip down her cheeks. I care about you too. So much. But I don't want to lose my job. I don't want to mess up what we've built. You won't lose your job. Ever. Regardless of what happens between us personally. You've earned your place at Crawford Industries. He wiped her tears with gentle fingers. But I understand if you need time. If this is too fast or too complicated. I can wait. I don't need time to know I have feelings for you, Imani said. But I need to think about how we navigate this. About what it means for us professionally. Take all the time you need. Just know that I'm here. And I'm not going anywhere. They sat together on the piano bench, hands joined, hearts opening, both scared and hopeful. The music had stopped, but something new was beginning. Something that felt like possibility. Monday morning arrived with unexpected tension. Imani walked into the office to find Julian in an intense phone conversation, his face hard with anger. She'd never seen him like this before, cold fury radiating from him. When he hung up, he turned to her. We have a problem. Someone leaked confidential information about the Anderson partnership to our competitors. Now 3 other companies are trying to poach Anderson with similar offers. Imani's stomach dropped. Who would do that? I don't know yet. But I'm going to find out. And when I do, they're finished. The coldness in his voice was chilling, a reminder of the ruthless businessman who'd fired 23 assistants. Throughout the day, Julian was harsh with everyone. He snapped at executives, dismissed ideas without consideration, and retreated into the cold, distant persona Imani thought he'd left behind. It was like watching him regress into old patterns, walls slamming back up. By afternoon, the IT department identified the leak. It was Michael Chen from the development team, someone who'd been with the company for 3 years. He'd been selling information to competitors for months. Julian's face was stone as he processed this betrayal. Get him in my office. Now. Julian, Imani said carefully. Think about this. There's nothing to think about. He betrayed this company. Betrayed me. He's done. I understand you're angry. But firing him in this state, the way you're feeling right now, you'll regret it. His eyes flashed. Don't tell me what I'll regret. Someone has to. Because right now, you're reverting to the person you were 2 months ago. Cold, harsh, unwilling to consider any perspective but your own. He sold company secrets. What other perspective is there? The one that asks why. The one that considers that people make mistakes for reasons. The one that remembers you're trying to be more than just ruthless. Imani stood her ground even as Julian's anger focused on her. Fire him if you must. But do it with dignity, not rage. You think I should show mercy to someone who betrayed me? I think you should show humanity. There's a difference between holding people accountable and destroying them. Julian's jaw clenched. You don't understand business. Sometimes you have to be ruthless. And sometimes being ruthless just makes you alone. Like your father was. Like you were before you started changing. Imani's voice was firm but not unkind. You've worked so hard to become someone better. Don't throw that away because you're hurt. I'm not hurt. I'm angry. You're both. And that's okay. But handle this as the person you're becoming, not the person you were. For a long moment, they stared at each other. Then Julian's shoulders sagged slightly. What would you do? I'd talk to him. Find out why. Maybe he's in financial trouble. Maybe someone's threatening him. Maybe he just made a terrible choice. Understanding doesn't mean excusing. But it means treating him like a person, not just a problem. Julian nodded slowly. All right. I'll talk to him. But you need to be there. Michael Chen looked terrified when he entered the office. He was young, maybe 28, with nervous energy and guilt written all over his face. Sit, Julian said, his voice controlled but cold. Michael sat, his hands shaking. Mr. Crawford, I can explain. Then explain. Why would you sell confidential information to our competitors? Tears filled Michael's eyes. My daughter has leukemia. The treatment she needs isn't covered by insurance. I was drowning in medical debt. A recruiter from TechFirst contacted me, offered money for information. I said no at first, but the bills kept coming. I was desperate. Julian's expression didn't change. So you betrayed the company that employs you? That provides your paycheck and benefits. I know. It was wrong. I'm sorry. I'll resign immediately. Michael's voice broke. I just wanted to save my daughter. Imani saw the conflict in Julian's face. This hit too close to home, to her own story of medical desperation. She spoke gently. Michael, how old is your daughter? 6. Her name is Sophie. And how much do you owe for her treatment? About 200,000. Maybe more by now. Michael wiped his eyes. I know saying I'm sorry doesn't fix this. I'll accept whatever consequences you decide. Julian stood and walked to the window, his back to them. The silence stretched painfully. Then he turned. You're fired. Effective immediately. Security will escort you out. Michael nodded, standing on shaky legs. I understand. But, Julian continued, his voice softer, Crawford Industries will cover your daughter's medical expenses. All of them. Through a hardship fund we're establishing. And I'm referring you to a competitor who's hiring, not TechFirst. Someone who will value your skills. With my recommendation. Michael stared in shock. I don't understand. I betrayed you. You did. And there are consequences for that. You can't stay here. But I understand desperation. I understand what people will do to save someone they love. You made a terrible choice, but you did it for a good reason. Julian's voice was firm. This is mercy, not approval. Don't waste it. Michael's tears flowed freely now. Thank you. God, thank you. I don't deserve this. No, you don't. But your daughter deserves a fighting chance. And you deserve an opportunity to make better choices. Julian gestured to the door. HR will have the paperwork for you. After Michael left, Julian collapsed into his chair, emotionally exhausted. Imani came around the desk and put her hand on his shoulder. That was the right thing to do. Was it? He betrayed the company. And you held him accountable while also showing compassion. You balanced justice with mercy. That's leadership. Julian looked up at her. My father would have destroyed him. Sued him, blacklisted him, made sure he never worked in this industry again. But you're not your father. You're better than that. Because of you. Because you pushed me to think differently. To consider the human cost of business decisions. He took her hand. What you said earlier about me reverting to old patterns. You were right. I felt betrayed and all my old defenses came up. The walls, the coldness. It felt safer. But lonely, Imani added. But lonely, he agreed. I don't want to be that person anymore. But it's hard to break patterns that kept me safe for so long. Change is hard. But you're doing it. One choice at a time. Julian stood and pulled her into his arms. It was the first real embrace they'd shared, and Imani felt her heart race as she leaned into him. I was scared today. Scared that one betrayal would make me shut down completely. Scared I'd lose all the progress I've made. Scared I'd push you away. I'm not going anywhere, Imani said against his chest. Promise. Promise. They stood like that for several minutes just holding each other. Then Julian pulled back slightly to look at her face. I love you. I know it's fast. I know it's complicated. But I love you, Imani. You've made me want to be better. You've shown me what my life could be if I let people in. And I don't want to lose that. I don't want to lose you. Imani felt her eyes fill with tears. I love you too. I've been trying to keep it professional. But I can't help it. You're brilliant and difficult and frustrating and wonderful, and I love every complicated part of you. Julian cupped her face in his hands. What do we do now? We figure it out together. Carefully because we work together. Honestly because we owe each other that. And hopefully because I think this could be really good if we let it. I want to try. With you. To build something real. Then let's try. He kissed her then, gentle and sweet, a promise and a beginning. When they pulled apart, both were smiling through tears. This is going to be complicated, Julian said. Everything worthwhile is, Imani replied, echoing his earlier words. The rest of the day felt different. Lighter. They still had work to do, professional boundaries to navigate and challenges ahead. But they'd made a choice. They'd chosen each other. And that felt like the bravest thing either of them had ever done. That evening, Imani told Patricia about everything. Her mother listened with knowing eyes and a warm smile. So the impossible boss isn't so impossible after all. He's still impossible sometimes. But he's also trying. Really trying. And you love him. I do. Is that crazy? 2 months ago I was desperate for any job. Now I'm in love with my boss. Patricia laughed. Life is strange like that. Sometimes the things we don't expect are exactly what we need. She took Imani's hands. Just remember to keep being yourself. Don't lose your own dreams and goals in his world. I won't, Mama. I promise. Then I'm happy for you, baby. You deserve love. You deserve someone who sees you and values you. Just make sure he keeps deserving you. He's working on it, Imani said with a smile. And so am I. That night, Julian texted her, thank you for today. For pushing me to be better. For believing I could be. For loving me anyway. Imani replied, thank you for listening. For changing. For letting me in. This is just the beginning. The best beginning, he wrote back. And despite all the complications, all the challenges ahead, Imani believed him. This was their beginning. Complicated, imperfect, but filled with hope and possibility. And that was enough. 3 months after the Michael Chin incident, Crawford Industries was thriving. The Anderson partnership had expanded, bringing in 3 more major clients. The company culture had shifted too, becoming less cutthroat and more collaborative. Julian credited Imani's influence, though she insisted it was his own growth. Their relationship remained carefully professional at work. They maintained boundaries, never displaying affection in the office. But everyone knew. The way Julian looked at her. The way they finished each other's sentences in meetings. The way they worked together like 2 parts of one whole. Tessa cornered Imani one afternoon with a huge smile. So when's the wedding? What? We're not engaged. Yet. But girl, that man is gone for you. Everyone sees it. He's like a different person. He's still demanding and intense. Sure, but now he's human too. He smiles. He asks people about their families. He approved the new parental leave policy you suggested. The man who used to fire people for being 2 minutes late now cares about work-life balance. That's your influence. Imani couldn't argue. Julian had changed, grown into someone who balanced ambition with compassion. But she changed too, gaining confidence in her abilities and value. One Friday evening, Julian asked her to stay late. "I need to show you something." He led her to a conference room she didn't recognize. When he opened the door, Imani gasped. The room had been converted into a study space, complete with desks, computers, and medical textbooks. A banner read, "Crawford Industries Nursing Scholarship Program." "What is this?" Imani breathed. "It's a program I've been developing. Full scholarships for people who want to pursue nursing degrees but can't afford it. Covers tuition, books, and living expenses. I'm launching it next month." Julian took her hand. "You inspired it. Your story about giving up nursing school to care for your mother. I started thinking about how many talented people we lose because they can't afford education or have to choose between dreams and survival." Tears streamed down Imani's face. "Julian, this is incredible. And you're the first recipient. If you want. I know you're doing important work here, but if nursing is still your dream, I want you to have the chance. We'll work around your class schedule. You can do both if you want. Or just focus on school. Whatever you need." Imani threw her arms around him. "Thank you. Thank you so much. This means everything." "You mean everything," Julian corrected. "You changed my life, Imani. Let me help change yours." That night, they celebrated at Julian's house. Patricia joined them, her health fully restored and her spirits high. She and Julian had developed a warm relationship over the past months, bonding over their shared love for Imani. "You've been good for my daughter," Patricia told Julian over dinner. "And she's been good for you. I see how happy you both are." "I am happy," Julian admitted. "For the first time in years, I'm actually happy. I have work I'm proud of, a company with purpose, and a woman I love who makes me want to be better every day." "And what are your intentions with my daughter?" Patricia asked with mock sternness. Julian smiled, pulling a small box from his pocket. Imani's breath caught. "Actually, Mrs. Brooks, I was hoping to ask your permission for something." He turned to Imani, opening the box to reveal a beautiful ring with a deep blue stone. "Imani Brooks, you walked into my life when I was at my worst. Cold, isolated, convinced that work was all that mattered. You challenged me, pushed me, refused to let me hide behind walls. You showed me what life could be if I let people in. You made me believe in love and second chances and becoming something better." Tears were flowing freely down Imani's face now. Julian continued, "I know this is fast. I know we still have challenges to navigate. But I also know I want to spend my life with you. Building a future together. Supporting your dreams while pursuing mine. Creating something beautiful and complicated and real. Will you marry me?" "Yes," Imani managed through her tears. "Yes, absolutely yes." Julian slipped the ring on her finger and kissed her while Patricia applauded and wiped her own tears. When they finally pulled apart, everyone was laughing and crying at once. "You know this means dealing with my impossible standards forever," Julian teased. "And you know this means I'll keep pushing you out of your comfort zone," Imani countered. "I'm counting on it." The next Monday they announced their engagement to the office. The response was overwhelmingly positive. Tessa claimed she'd called it months ago. The executives congratulated them warmly. Even the board was supportive, having seen firsthand how their partnership had strengthened the company. "New policy," Julian announced at the executive meeting. "We're implementing better work-life balance across the company. Flexible schedules, mental health support, family leave. If I can find balance, everyone can. And should." "Spoken like a man in love," one of the board members said with a smile. "Spoken like a man who finally understands what matters," Julian corrected, looking at Imani. Over the following months, Imani began nursing classes while continuing her work at Crawford Industries. It was challenging juggling both, but Julian supported her completely. He attended her graduation from the first semester, beaming with pride as she accepted her grades. "You're brilliant," he told her afterward. "You're going to be an incredible nurse. And an incredible strategic operations manager," Imani added. "I can be both. You can be anything you want. I believe in you." Their wedding was small and intimate, held in Julian's garden with close friends and family. Patricia walked Imani down the aisle, tears of joy streaming down her face. Julian's mother came from Florida, tentatively rebuilding her relationship with her son at Imani's gentle encouragement. During the ceremony, Julian's vows made everyone cry. "Imani, you saved me from a life of lonely success. You showed me that being strong means being vulnerable. That power comes from compassion, not control. That love is worth the risk of loss. You are my partner, my conscience, my heart." I promise to keep growing, keep trying, keep choosing us even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Imani's vows were equally moving. Julian, you've shown me that people can change. That walls can come down. That complicated love is still love. You've supported my dreams while building your own. You've given my mother and me security and hope. But most of all, you've given me yourself, all your difficult, brilliant, caring self. I promise to keep pushing you, keep believing in you, keep choosing us through every challenge. As they kissed as husband and wife, the small gathering erupted in applause. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. It was better. It was real. 6 months later, Imani completed her nursing degree while still working part-time at Crawford Industries. She'd found a way to blend both passions, working with the company's new health initiative while practicing nursing at a local clinic. Julian had continued evolving too. He'd mended his relationship with his mother, visited her quarterly in Florida, and talked to her weekly. He'd developed genuine friendships with several executives. He played piano regularly and had even performed at a charity event, with Imani in the front row cheering him on. On their first anniversary, they returned to his piano room where he'd first told her he loved her. "Play something for me," Imani requested. Julian sat at the piano and began a new piece, one she didn't recognize. "I composed this," he said softly. "It's called Imani's Song. Because you gave me back music. You gave me back life." The melody was beautiful, full of complexity and emotion. Imani listened with tears in her eyes, overwhelmed by the beauty of the moment and the journey that had brought them here. When he finished, she joined him on the bench. "I love you. Not just for what you've given me but for who you've become. For the man who chooses kindness over coldness. Who uses his power to lift others up. Who isn't afraid to be vulnerable anymore. I love you for seeing that man even when I couldn't see him myself," Julian replied. "For refusing to let me settle for less than I could be. For teaching me that love doesn't make you weak. It makes you brave." They sat together in the music-filled room, two people who'd found each other when both needed saving. No one had lasted a month with Julian Crawford until Imani Brooks walked into his life and changed everything. She'd lasted not just a month but a lifetime. And she'd done more than survive his impossible standards. She'd helped him become someone better, someone capable of love and growth and genuine happiness. In the end, it wasn't about one impossible boss and one stubborn woman. It was about two people choosing each other, choosing growth, choosing love despite complications and fears. And that choice, made every day in big ways and small, made all the difference. Years later, when people asked how they'd made it work, the answer was always simple. They'd chosen kindness. They'd chosen hope. They'd chosen love. And they kept choosing every single day. Because that's what real love was. Not perfection. Not ease. But choosing each other, supporting each other, growing together. And they lived that choice happily, messily, beautifully for the rest of their lives.